Okay, we're good in the back.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. We are now going to call to order the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee meeting. Teresa, can you call the roll?
Ms. Welch,
Here.
Mayor Kumar, Mr. Love.
Here.
And Mr. Sleesman.
Here.
We have 3 committee members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We actually have 7 items on the agenda today, which, longer than we normally have, but I believe there were some good things in here, some good projects that RTA is working on. So we're going to first start off with a presentation of a competitive procurement for the replacement of the main office building roof. That's important. We always need a roof fund. Brian Schultz with Construction Engineering and Jonathan Lawley with the Program Project Manager Procurement will be doing the presentation today. You now have the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair Welch, committee members, members of the board. I am Brian Schultz, construction engineer, and we will be presenting the main office building roof replacement project. This project is located at our current location off West 6th Street. The project encompasses work on the roof only, which includes replacing 4 skylights, a layover roof system, and resealing the metal roof. This building's also called the Root McBride Building. It was constructed around 1884. The existing roof is over 25 years old, has leaks, and holds subsurface moisture. The metal roof and 4 skylights were installed when the existing roof was installed. This project will install a layover roof system, replace 4 skylights, recover the metal roof, and replace all other roofing accessories. Once all 5 new HVAC units, which is the next project we'll be going over, are placed on the roof replacement project will start work. Replacement will be targeted for summer of 2025.
Good morning, Jonathan Lawley, Program Contract Manager. The invitation for bid was issued on April 29th, 2024. 9 interested parties reviewed the solicitation. 4 firms submitted a bid for this project. The lowest responsive and responsible bidder for this project was Warren Roofing and Insulating LLC. There's a 14% DBE participation goal on this project and will be met using the all contractor supply. Warren Roofing and Insulating LLC has successfully completed projects for NASA, Ford Motor Company, Progressive Field, Chardon Local Schools, as well as the City of Cleveland, and many other organizations. The staff for this project is recommending the committee award the contract to Warren Roofing and Insulating LLC for the replacement of the roof on this building in a contract amount not to exceed $940,000. Questions?
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the committee? No questions on the roof? Do I have a motion to move forward with this to the full board?
Motion. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This will now move forward to the full board. Thank you so much. We will now be moving forward with an additional presentation of the competitive procurement for the replacement of this office building's HVAC units. We will also have the presenters Brian Schultz with Construction Engineering and Jonathan Lawley, Program Project Manager for Procurement. Thank you so much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So this project is once again located at our current location off West 6th Street. This project encompasses work on the roof. In each floor on the roof, we'll be placing the 5 HVAC units, and each floor will be updating the control systems. All 5 of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning HVAC units were installed around 1997. The American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, ASHRAE, recommends replacing units older than 15 years old. Project objectives is to install 5 new units, update the building automation system, BAS, that controls all the units and other accessories to attain proper temperature control throughout the building. Unit deliveries are anticipated to be 6 months or more and will require a large crane and shutdown of West 6th Street to replace them. Roof replacement project will start work once all 5 units are installed, and replacement will be targeted for spring of 2025 when heating and cooling demands are minimal.
This invitation for bid was also issued on April 29th, 2024. 10 interested parties reviewed the solicitation, and 3 firms submitted a bid. CRS Metalworks Incorporated was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Now, there was a 19% DBE participation goal on this project. CRS Metalworks Incorporated completed the good faith effort process to support a DBE participation of 0%. This was reviewed and approved by the Office of Business Development. CRS Metalworks Incorporated has successfully completed projects for the City of Cleveland, the City of North Olmsted, City of Westlake, Akron Children's Hospital, the City of Akron, among other organizations. For this project, the staff requests the committee recommend award to CRS Metalworks Incorporated for the replacement of the HVAC units on this building in a contract amount not to exceed $1,575,000. Questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Yes, Trustee Love.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious in the development of that bid where sort of building systems, energy efficiency factored into the identification of the type of HVAC system, the output of the system. How was that factored into the decision making? Thank you.
What was factored in is we had a study done on the current units, on the capacity and efficiency, and based on that study, they found that the current unit capacity right now is efficient enough, and that's what part of the scope of work is, the same tonnage and everything.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Yeah, we had a 19% DBE goal, and we have good faith effort documentation to support DBE participation of 0%. Could I just get some more info on how that works?
Yeah, if I could relay that question to Melinda via Brandon, if either you have an update on that one. Not sure if Carl is here today.
Jonathan, I'll also ask you to sit at the podium. CRX was unable to contract with subcontractors who are ready, willing, and able to do the work due to capacity issues, labor issues, et cetera. The goal was established based upon what is certified under the DBE program as ready, willing, and able subcontractors under the RTA's DBE program. There were none available at the time of this project needing executed. There is a document that the FTA requires if a contractor cannot meet the goal, and this is the prime contractor, so the prime contractor being CRX, had to complete the good faith effort documentation to support the efforts that they did to reach out, provide communications as to what the contractor said, why they couldn't support the goal, and then Carl and his team review that documentation. They have several communications with the vendor to support it, and he deemed it in compliance. Carl, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion to move forward with the contract with CRS Metalworks,
So
Inc.?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now move forward with the contract with CRS Metalworks, Inc. Thank you so much for that presentation. Up next, we have an RFP procurement, a competitive negotiated procurement for design modifications to the red line platforms to account for the new rail cars. For the presenters, we have Kurt Dimick, Engineering Project Manager for Bridges, and Jonathan Lawley up again for Program Contract Manager of Procurement. You now have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning. Chair Welch, members of the board, committee members. My name is Kirk Dimick, the Engineering Project Manager for Bridges, and I'm here today to present the engineering services contract for the Red Line Station platform modifications, presenting it to the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee. So you can see that this is my project location map. This is on the left of the slide, you can see it's our red line running east to west. The numbers that are associated on here represent 25 RTA station platforms. So this map does not show our RTA stations, but the station platforms by number. So one being over to the east at Lewis Stokes, heading west all the way to the airport. You'll see the number 25 down there in the lower left of your screen. So of these 22, of these platforms, 22 platforms are within this particular contract. The ones highlighted in yellow, the 3, are in another contract, a separate contract at Superior, Cedar East University, and West Park. Those 3 I'll explain later to be done in a separate contract. So let's take a look at the reasons we've got to modify our platforms. On the left of the screen is the new rail car in yellow that's narrower than the old fleet that we run in blue that lines up currently with the platform. So what we have to do here is put in a platform extension. So if you focus on the red square on the left, that's what this contract is focused on, putting on this platform extension. How we do that, we're hiring this consultant to come up with those plans to develop that. The platform extension designs will vary based on the existing platform conditions and materials. Some of the platforms are worse than others, so how we attach the extension on may vary. And because of the support of each of the platforms, some are supported by steel, some are supported by concrete, so those designs vary. But we will cluster those together to make the most efficient series of extensions to do that. So we're focusing on platform extensions and not replacement of the platform. So this is another way to look at these 25 platforms. Actually, here are my 22 in this contract. The first group, the design is in 2 parts. So the first group will be in yellow, focusing on the red line east and the red line west. And that group will go out in a first construction contract package. The designer will set those up so we could do segments of those sections of the red line. And so that's 16 in the first group. The second group will take care of the remaining 6, totaling 22 platforms in our design contract. The reason that we have to do these 2 separate groups is the way we have to manage our existing fleet versus implementing the new fleet. So if we drill down into a specific platform edge modification at one of the platforms, we have to break each of those platforms down into 2 phases. So of the 22 platforms, it's across 15 stations. There are multiple platforms at some of these stations, like down in Tower City, at East 55th, we have various platforms. So that makes up the total of 22 in this contract. So the first phase, we're looking at repairing the existing platform components, getting that platform ready to accept the extension. We're going to be running the old fleet, the current fleet that we have now, while these repairs are being done, getting it ready. We have to put in new anchorage details to accept those new modular edge, that little red square that I showed you in my earlier slide. So once that is done, for a particular segment, we can move into phase 2. So the segments are going to be east red line, and then the west red line, and then final segment is the blue segment I showed earlier in the middle at Tower City, East 55th, and East 34th. And the reason we're doing that is we're still running light rail. They're the wider fleet, so they have to still get through all the way to the waterfront line coming from the east and still go through these platforms. So those will be done last. That's the last segment. So the second phase of each of these platform extensions, we have to do a segment shutdown. So that'll be on the east in one group. In the first group, there'll be 6 platforms, 6 stations that'll be taken care of on the Red Line East up to not including East 34th, installing those extensions. And then once we open that line back up, we're able to run the new fleet. It can become operational. The timing of that is in 2027. We're looking to do that. And then we'll move into the other segments to the west. However, before we move fully into the west, in phase 2 of the west segment, we can still move into the west in phase 1, but when we want to put on the extensions in phase 2 on the west, we have to decommission the old light rail fleet, and we'll send those out to Brook Park. Heavy rail. And then here, the remaining 3 that I did not include in this contract are based on condition. They require complete platform replacement. We'll do that in a subsequent contract, but it will parallel this work that's being done. With that, I'll pass it to Jonathan.
The request for proposal for this project was issued on April 15th, 2024. 16 interested parties reviewed the solicitation, 2 firms proposed, and both firms were interviewed. The evaluation panel members for this project came from the following departments: engineering and project development, safety, the Office of Management and Budget, operations, the Office of Business Development, as well as procurement. The criteria for this project was derived out of the Brooks Act and is as follows. We looked at the project manager, the assigned staff, the past performance, the project approach, location of majority work, as well as the DBE participation. Osborne Engineering was determined to be the most technically qualified vendor for this project. There is an 11% DBE goal provided on this project, and it will be met utilizing G&T Associates, Summit Engineering, Denise's Flagging and Construction Incorporated. Osborne Engineering has successfully completed projects for the RTA, Decatur Public Transit System, Cuyahoga County, the Ohio Department of Transportation, the Cleveland Guardians, and other organizations. Osborne Engineering has a knowledgeable staff and is familiar with GCRTA's rail needs and has provided quality deliverables on past projects. The staff recommends this committee award to Osborne Engineering for this project a contract that was negotiated in the amount not to exceed $861,676.92. Questions?
Thank you so much for this. Our region is obviously very, very excited to get these new rail cars, so it's very great to see the process and all the efforts that are in place to move that forward. Also, I know there's a lot of diligence that goes into who we choose as a final recommendation or who you all choose as a final recommendation, and I know Osborne has done a lot of work with us in the past as I've seen them come up over the last couple of years, so this is great. Are there any questions from the committee?
Yeah, could you go back to the slide describing the 2 phases? Yeah, that one. So for phase 2, we're looking at multiple station segments shut down, and then you said also that to finish up a couple of those on the west, we would have to decommission the rail cars before we do that?
Before phase two.
What
yes,
kind of,
because-
I mean, it's a few years away, so I get that we can't be super precise, but what kind of time for those shutdowns, or what kind of mitigation do we have for when we do retire those rail cars, but we're not quite done yet?
That is a great question. The team will work very closely with all of RTA staff to come up with the best timing. It could be as little as 10 days, but it may be more, depending on the complexities of installation that come out of this design contract.
If I can,
yes.
yeah, Kirk, if I can ask Doc to give a little bit of a snippet of what the process is as far as being able to support when the rail goes down.
Yep. Good morning, Chair Welsh and Ms. Terry and members of the board. I'm Fonseca, the Chief Operating Officer of the Greater Cleveland RTA. And so, Mr. Sleesman, when we decommission the system to bring up the new set of cars in the new system, we're going to shut down the east side first. That will allow the current heavy rail trains to operate from 55th all the way west while we have east of 55th shut down. In order to get the old cars off of the system, we have to take them to Brook Park. So when Kirk is explaining, we have to at some point take the last train west, and then we're going to close the line in, meaning we're going to put the extensions there. During those times, we'll have bus bridges, similar to shutdowns that we've had at other times, and they won't be larger than half the system. And so our process will be similar to current shutdowns that we have every summer, when that we will have bus bridges, have people out, making sure that folks understand how to move between. And so as Kirk said, what we're challenging the engineers to do here is to come up with a solution that minimizes the time that the system is shut down. And so they'll come up with a plan and be preparing so that we can get as close to plug to play as possible when it's time to move. And so when he says, in one of the slides, he says, we're preparing the new stations, you can imagine that there may be holes drilled already, cement already to go, and then we're coming in and just placing the platform extension. So that's the plan that we have. The timing will change based upon what the engineers find and how complex or how much prep we can do before the actual closer.
Great, thanks. That clarifies well.
Thank you.
Trustee Love.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation this morning. A really exciting project, to just reiterate, Chairwoman Welch. Just a clarification. So has there already been essentially a facilities audit of the existing 22 platforms to determine that, yes, their lifespan is such that the platform extension is the most prudent investment as opposed to the total replacement, which was, I think, identified in those 3 stations? Or is that potentially going to change as the engineering work gets underway and they start to do a more detailed analysis?
Yes, and another great question. We did spend a considerable time on the whole system. We've done it both for the red line and the light rail, and gone out and evaluated each platform and assigned condition ratings, and then grouped those in to these 22 in this design contract. And there were just simply 3 out there that we couldn't add the extension without needing a replacement within a short period of time. So replacing the platforms were evident after that study. That was an internal study that we did in engineering with the staff, that we know our platforms very well and our systems and what we've done in the past. There's a lot of history of how we've fixed these and maintained them over the years. So that matrix was the backbone of this contract. That answer your question?
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion to move forward with awarding Osborne Engineering with the engineering service for the Red Line Station platforms?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now be awarding the contract to Osborne Engineering. Thank you so much for that presentation. Up next, we have another RFP procurement, a competitive negotiated procurement for design modifications to the Central Rail Maintenance Facility for the new rail cars as well. The presenters will be Mike Kippick, Engineering Project Manager for Facilities, and Jonathan Lawley for Project Contract Management for Procurement. Thank you so much. You have the floor.
Good morning, Chair Welch, members of the committee, members of the board. My name is Mike Kapek. I'm the Engineering Project Manager for Facilities. Here to discuss the design modifications for the Central Rail Maintenance Facility. Unlike the existing fleet, the new rail cars have equipment mounted on top of the car that will need periodic maintenance. To support that, the following modifications will be made at the Central Rail Maintenance Facility. We're going to add 3 service balconies in addition to the 1 existing pantograph balcony. And on each of those balconies, we're going to add a 1-ton trolley hoist and elevate the catenary to provide adequate clearance for the rooftop equipment. In addition, we're going to provide auxiliary power connections for the top of the cars. In addition, the new rail cars have a hydraulic braking system requiring an isolated environment. Consequently, a separate room with a separate ventilation system will be designed for the brake system repairs. The new cars also have a shroud around the rooftop equipment. We have a concern about snow gathering in the shroud, so a snow melting system will be designed to address possible accumulations of snow or ice. Here's a picture of the new rail car. It's actually 2 identical halves, back to back, supported by a non-powered truck in the center and powered truck on either end. And you can see the amount of equipment on top. We have a cab HVAC unit for the operator, braking resistor, propulsion container, main HVAC unit for the passengers, and a pantograph and ice cutter assembly at the center of the car.
This RFP was also issued on April 15th, 2024. 13 parties reviewed the solicitation. 1 firm proposed, 1 firm was interviewed. The departments in which the panel members came from for this project are the Engineering Project Development Department, Safety, Office of Management and Budget, Operations, Office of Business Development, as well as Procurement. Again, in accordance with the Brooks Act, the criteria are, we looked at the project manager, the assigned staff, the past performance, the project approach, location majority work, and DBE participation. Richard L. Bowen and Associates was determined to be the most technically qualified vendor for this work. A 13% DBE participation goal was assigned to the project and will be met by using 2B Engineering LLC and G. Stevens Incorporated. Richard L. Bowen and Associates has successfully completed projects for the RTA, Norfolk Southern Railroad, Amtrak, Central Ohio Transit Authority, Akron Metro, and others. Richard L. Bowen and Associates has qualified, knowledgeable personnel. They are familiar with GCRTA, and they have also provided quality work in the past. For this project, the staff is requesting this committee award to Richard L. Bowen and Associates for design services for the Central Rail Maintenance Facility, a contract that was negotiated in the amount not to exceed $472,484.95. Questions?
Questions from the committee? Do I have a motion to move? Oh, yeah, Mayor Wise. Thank you. You're welcome.
Just educate me for a moment. If we go back to the slide that was talking about the segregated area for work, I think was required by the hydraulic brakes. Is that a new feature on the cars that we don't have today that is causing us to need to make?
The existing cars have air brakes, and now hydraulic brakes have much tighter precision and tolerances. And I think there was a concern about temperature fluctuations or what have you. So Siemens recommends an isolated room.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion to move forward with the award?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now move this contract forward with Richard L. Bowen and Associates to the full board. Thank you so much. Next up, we have a change order, a presentation of a negotiated proposed change order to the trunk line signal system project with Bison Rail Systems. Today, we will have 4 presenters up. We have Kathleen McGurver, Project Manager for Track, Jen Martin, Contract Manager for Procurement, Mike Shipper, DGM for Engineering Project Management, and Melinda D'Angelo for Director of Procurement. You now have the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Again, I'm Kathleen. Good morning, Chair Welch, members of the committee, and members of the board. Again, I'm Kathleen McGurvey, Engineering Project Manager for TRAC, and I am presenting, along with all the other folks mentioned, let's see, where did all this, a change order for the trunk line signal system for a change in the track circuit type. This project was originally approved by the full board in early 2023 and moved forward. The trunk line signal system, as many of you probably know, is kind of in the center of our system. And you can see here our system map with a red circle, that's the trunk line. And it runs from East 79th Street to Shaker Square. So this project as a whole will rebuild the signal system, which was in the 1920s era system, and kind of a lot of museum type relays on that system. The work will take place during an 8-week shutdown, and it was originally slated to be completed in July of 2024, and the new proposed date is fall of 2025. So the original timeline, we had a notice to proceed on March 31st of 2023, and Bison came forward with a proposal they felt was an improvement to the system, and on May 20th, and so RTA began looking into that. So since June of 2023, we've been reviewing the solution and determining the cost and acquiring funding, and in addition to that, we wouldn't be able to move forward with this project with these changes if we didn't already have a budget for fiber, which just became available recently. So it just kind of dovetailed together, so we were able to pursue this superior solution. So we did an internal review, and we also engaged several third-party consultants to determine whether to move forward. The original design called for audio frequency track circuits, PSO 4000s, and the new design will be power frequency track circuits, and that is a more current technology utilizing fiber. Again, as I mentioned, that fiber will be done under a separate project. This new solution will provide superior shunting sensitivity and broken rail detection, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the next slide. And it will also provide a better protection against broken down insulated joints. This system is also preferred by our Power and Way department for the reasons described above. So here's kind of a simplified version of a power frequency track circuit. And you can see here it's bounded by insulated joints, and there is a power source that puts power into the rail, and a signal relay, and that relay, when that power is put on there, the relay is up. So it's an energized relay, and when that occurs, the signal will be green. That's when it's not occupied. And then when it is occupied, as is depicted here, the axle will shunt the track, which is just like shorting the track. So it takes the energy away from the relay, and then the relay goes down, and then the signal goes red, as is shown here. For an audio frequency track circuit, it's a little different. They put an electronic device puts an audio frequency on the track, so it's a transmitter, and then a receiver on the other end receives that audio frequency. And it works, but it doesn't work quite as well, and the shunting isn't quite as good. And and the shunting is what shows train occupancy, so it's pretty important. And then also, in addition to that, it isn't as good at detecting a broken rail, and a broken rail will will kind of open the track circuit. If you can kind of picture it, it's not continuous. With an audio frequency, the audio frequency can bridge that broken rail. So this is a superior solution. Now I'll turn it over to Jen for the procurement portion.
Good morning. My name is Jen Martin, and I am the contract administrator for this project. Just to give you a little recap, the base contract was authorized by Resolution 2023-2 in an amount not to exceed $4,464,789.20. The notice to proceed was issued on March 31st of 2023, and the final completion was scheduled for July 30th of 2024. At this point in time, there has been only one no-cost time extension. Change order has been issued to this contract. The proposed change order of $1,129,068.56 will include all the costs for the new proposed solution as well as the new construction schedule, adding 442 days to the schedule. The proposed technical solution represents approximately $400,000 of the change order cost, with the remaining amount due to delay as we navigated the complexities of this project. Based upon the ODOT method for pricing delay costs, the overhead costs are fair and reasonable to compensate for the new fall 2025 construction schedule. The change order committee has reviewed and approved this proposed change order. DBE goal. Bison Rail System is a 100% self-performing DBE, so they are remaining committed to achieving their assigned 17% DBE goal for this project. Going forward, GCRTA will utilize the on-call signal engineering consulting firm Mott MacDonald, LLC, to provide signal engineering services for the duration of this project. And we will also be utilizing the on-call scheduling and cost control consulting firm Construction Support Solutions, Inc., to provide support for the project schedule. Engaging Mott MacDonald and Construction Support Solutions will provide GCRTA with advanced signal expertise and will ensure continuous progress on the project. Their expertise will support GCRTA with the implementation of the new rail signal system, enhancing overall efficiency of transit operations and safety to our customers. Staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend approval for the proposed change order to Bison Rail Systems in a negotiated amount not to exceed $1,129,068.56, resulting in a new total contract amount not to exceed $5,593,857.76. This change order will also reinstate the general manager's change order signing authority to $250,000. We will be happy to entertain any questions the board may have.
Thank you so much. Because this is a change order, just curious where we were able to get the money from to then now add to this contract.
If I could, just for a moment, I want to, if I can, with your permission, just deviate from the normal format to be able to kind of give a history of some of this project. As you mentioned, this is a pretty sizable amount. That's why you see so many presenters up here. Melinda and Mike will really serve as kind of the catch-all for some of the questions that we knew were coming. And if we can, we'd actually like to tackle some of the questions that we had to ask ourselves, which may actually duplicate what are in your minds now. So if I can ask, I'm going to kind of lay this out, and if the team could kind of chime in, and then if there are any gaps that we did not fill, we're very happy to answer that. So starting with Mike, and a de facto Doc as the customer, right? Operations is really the customer in this through Power and Way. Our director, Teresa Moody, is not in this room, but Doc can speak for her in those situations. And hear me out, because I've got 4 main questions. I want you guys to speak to the operational benefits of the change order. So just thinking about the $400,000 portion of the overall change order and the reason why this is a superior solution. Kathleen kind of went into some of the technical detail, but generally what makes the difference. And then also, if Melinda and potentially Jen could speak to Bison being ready and willing to be able to continue through this, because we are adding on an additional year. 442 days, I think was the estimate. And then also Bison's track record as a proven solution-oriented company. This isn't a company that has just started yesterday. They've been around for quite a while. And then also the financial implications, Raj, if you'd be able to kind of weigh in on that one. Not sure if Carolyn, if you have anything additional, but our ability to be able to find the money and also be able to support the delay of the 700 and change. And then also the importance, and this might be one for Tony or either Mike via Kathleen, about the Mott McDonald support that we have going forward. So we make sure that we are not in this position, hopefully again, where we have such a sizable change order, we can be able to kind of evaluate the technology that's out there early and often, so we don't have to incur the delay, which lands us in the situation that we're in. So back to the beginning, the benefits of the change order, Doc, and then Mike. Thanks.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Welsh, Ms. Terry, and members of the board. And for those that are online, I'm Flonse Caver, the Chief Operating Officer. And so I'm the only person up here that's not an engineer, so I'm gonna use some terms that kind of explain what we're doing here. As Kathleen explained, the system that we have is an older system. It uses communication technology that would be, it travels on copper wire, so call it old telephone systems, and the newer technology transmits data over fiber. And so as Kathleen explained, we have an opportunity to finish a fiber project, which then allows us to modernize the signaling system. So when we went out to procure this originally, we did so with the current infrastructure and communication infrastructure that's on the light rail system. Some of you may remember that we've also we reconstructed a total fiber line on the red line system. And so this is extending this new technology for communication. What this does is this allows RTA and our Power and Way team to advance the technology so they can work on more modern technology that can only be had if you have fiber optics. And so our team is excited about the solution that has been recommended here. It will bring our systems up to a more modern state, as well as offer us the opportunity to expand when technology moves. And so we won't have to try to redevelop the system, then get the fiber, and then make the system more modern. And so we are proponents of this, and this will kind of give us a similar process to what we have on the red line system. And so there are any questions, but this is a superior solution for us, and it modernizes our system. It also allows us to really consider other safety enhancing items. So the team mentioned the occupancy and shunting. This allows us to have technology that will show our control center where exactly the train is on the light rail. Currently, they do so by rule and voice, but this will allow them to show the track moving down the line. Think in a non-technical way, think air traffic control. This has given us air traffic control from 79th to close to Shaker Square.
Thank you.
I can address some of the budgetary stuff. In addition to that, this system will can be expanded to the legs of both the blue and green lines in a future expansion of the signal system. So that's one of our goals, is to get that dark territory lit up for the whole system. On this project, fortunately, we had a $6 million budget. So and it was so the additional money is there. It's a combination of federal grants and local money. We are in discussion with FTA Region 5 on the split of that. So they're reviewing the change order also. But we do have funds identified because the project was under its $6 million budget originally. The project this contract went through multiple procurements to get to this point. And that's why the project overall has now kind of caught up with the fiber project that we have in our capital program. So with the technology that they are proposing, it really kind of leverages the investment we're going to make in putting the fiber optic line out into the light rail. So
all that went into the evaluation of the solution. I think the most unfortunate thing is it took so long, we lost the construction season. And that's really the crux of from our standpoint. Signal system is one of our weak points. We do not have a true signal engineer on our staff, so we do rely on consultants, and we will be relying on them more than our normal as we go forward.
Thank you.
Regarding our vendor Bison, for those of you that were part of the board when Mr. Clark was here, when we awarded this contract, it was exciting. He was a first-time contractor for us. It was a competitive procurement. He came in under budget. It was negotiated. Jen has an extremely good rapport with Mr. Clark. He is ready, willing, and able, and waited with bated breath to get this project started. He will staff up based upon our revised schedule. We're in constant communication with him. He's willing to come and provide another visit as an update when we get the project started. If there's any other questions, is there anything else I needed to add from the vendor? The two on-calls that we spoke to, they also, like I said, will support the gaps like Mike added. We have reached out to both of those. They're aware that there are additional tasks possibly coming for the project. The board did award both of those contracts previously under resolutions, so they are currently both under contract. So,
Thank
any
you.
other questions on the vendors?
Yes, Mayor Weiss.
Just a question, not on the vendors, but on the project itself. And so is the only area that won't have an updated signal is the area from Shaker Square to the end of the green and blue line, or are there other areas within the system? That's question number one.
Those are the areas that we do not have a modern. So in our control center, once we leave Shaker Square and go out on both legs, then they're in a more of a visual control situation. And they actually have to call in to the control center every time they leave Shaker Square at the split and every time they come back in to make sure they're lined properly to get into the signalized system. So we have a push button at the split on the east side of Shaker Square. That's part of the manual control going from the manual to the system.
Is it a resource issue, or is it?
No, there's a long history. I mean, they've been doing that from the 1920s on that line, and for us, as we are investing very significantly in modernizing the whole rail system, that will be one of. There's a couple things that we have left to do on both the blue and green line to get it up to the rest of the standard we have. One, we need to replace the 100-pound rail. So that's been a long-standing item. And the other thing is to get the fiber optic system all the way out so we can actually communicate in a more modern way with all the stations, all the cameras, and signal system, and then to get the signal system extended out to the legs. So those are all very large programs that have a lot of funding invested in the 5-year capital program.
Thanks.
Additional questions?
Not on the project, but you just mentioned that signaling is one of our weak points, and we don't have a signal engineer on staff. I just had the curiosity of whether that was because we just don't have one, or because we don't need one enough and we use consultants, or?
The signal system engineers are a very prized commodity. I think if many of you are aware, when the freight railroads all went to positive train control, that pretty much used every signal system engineer in the US, Canada, and Europe to get that done. The going rate for someone in that position is at least $250,000 a year. We do rely on consultants to help us in this area because we aren't doing signal projects all the time.
Gotcha.
But we spent, I don't know how many years advertising for that position and could not attract anyone to that. So, we do have these on-call signal engineers. If we have a very signal-specific project, we even hired a firm on this one to help us put the package together originally, and the person doing that is retired. So it's hard for us to convert from the 1920s to 2000 system because the old stuff there's not as many people that know how to handle the older, very old technology that we're using now. So, yeah, it's a difficult spot. We have tried for years to get somebody, and we rely on consultants to provide that expertise.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion to move forward?
So moved.
Second.
Teresa, can we have a roll call?
Ms. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
and Mr. Sleesman.
Yes.
You have 3 ayes and none opposed.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to pass over to Mayor Wise, Trustee Mayor Wise, for the next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation
You're welcome.
and the diligence.
The next item is relating to an intergovernmental student transportation agreement with CMSD student fares. Trustee Welch needs to recuse herself on this matter, so I will step in for her just on this particular item. Please, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chair Welsh, Mayor Weiss, and members of the committee and members of the board. My name is John Taher, Director of Accounting. I'm here going to be presenting an intergovernmental agreement for the student transportation with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Since 2006, CMSD has partnered with GCRTA to purchase discounted student fares. As in the past, CMSD wants to make public transportation available to its enrolled students, and this agreement will be for grades 9 through 12 in the school year beginning July 29, 2024 through June 17, 2025. This value pricing agreement of $2,500,000 is for approximately 1,515,000 rides, and it is based upon the projected rides from the 2023-2024 school year. This agreement will only apply to students that have the CMSD GCRTA ID school passes. And here, what we provide CMSD is a blank white, basically ID, and they had fixed their school system pictures onto it. We give them the black strip. That is for our fare box cards, or for our fare box. As in 2023-2024 school year, there will be no blackout periods, and CMSD will pay for each of our student ride with the swipes. So we will be providing 12,000 student ID picture cards for the 2024-2025 school year. CMSD will make 10 monthly payments of $250,000 each, and we will perform reconciliation to the actual CMSD rides on a quarterly basis and bill them accordingly. Any tickets that CMSD wants outside of this agreement will be at the current student rate of $1.75. So the staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the approval of the Intergovernmental Student Transportation Agreement with CMSD for the school year 2024-2025. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions from the board? You know, we've been entering into an agreement with CMSD for how many years now?
Since 2006.
2006.
Yes.
And by all accounts, it's been a very successful program. So any other comments or concerns? Jetty.
Just for my own understanding, this is just for grades 9 through 12, correct?
Correct.
So is there an agreement for the younger grades as well?
Yellow buses. They use their yellow school buses for that. They don't have enough yellow school buses to handle the volume of students.
Okay, so there's,
So it's not RTA at that point.
If I may, Raj, just really quickly, if you can give an overview of the process just for the newer board members so they understand the kind of ins and outs of how you and John work through the negotiations, because every contract is different. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. And John, if you want to kick in, no problem.
Happy to do that. For those online, this is Raj Gautam. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for GCRTA. The negotiation with CMSD over the last 2 years, now that we have improved data on the ridership, et cetera, we changed the model to a ridership-based thing. The standard rate student ride is $1.75, and as John presented, that has been negotiated with a 5%, roughly a 5% discount at $1.65 per ride. So it is a win-win situation for both CMSD as well as for us. They are the largest volume customer of ours. And we are certainly providing a service to the students, et cetera. They did request that the holidays, et cetera, that used to be previously blacked out be lifted. And once again, that was a win-win situation for us because they are now paying by the ride. And we have the information to track that.
Love.
Thank you for the presentation. Just additional clarification. So when you say the lifting of the blackout, is the pass usable throughout the entire weekend?
Correct.
There's no restriction of usage.
Correct. In the past, last year was the first year we did that. In the past, they used to have blackouts for weekends. It was like 5 o'clock at night, and then weekends and holidays. Last year, when they went to this pay by the swipe, they wanted to be available for their entire system all year long, or for our system all year long. And we agreed, and it's worked out well for both parties.
That's a good support of the extracurriculars. Sorry, I can cut you off. To make sure that we can continue to support the idea of young people needing something to do after school and before school as well. So it's a way for us to be able to support not only just the economics of the city, but also really attest to some of the violence that happens in the uptick of school being out. And then also an idle mind, right, is the devil's playground, that kind of ideology. So making sure that we can provide that mobility for students to go to after-school programs is usually part of the conversation that we have with CMSD as well.
And this we give them information on a monthly basis of the actual ride, so they can actually see by day how many students are riding, and they can actually see the student ID and associate with, John Smith, who's riding, so they can go down to that granular detail.
Reverend Lucas.
I also want to make sure that our PR people get a big play on this, because at the school board meetings, this has come up as to pass and when they can ride, when they can ride. When we compare this, not only with what we're doing, but with the other cities, this is one of the best programs across the nation. So I want to make sure we put some big flags out on this one.
Other comments? Mr. Sleesman.
One comment. Yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation about the blackout periods. I know it came up during Trustee Pacchetti's confirmation with County Council, so County Council can rest assured that there are no blackout periods. Also, when we have the cards, we haven't gone this way yet, and I know, Doc, we talked about this before, but right now the process is that they show a pass and then have to show their ID. When we go to account-based ticketing, can we get to a point where they just validate with that ID?
Yes and no. Yes, we can do that, but right now, the pass that they have is actually, they can slide it through the fare box. So that's how we track it through the fare box, along with if there is a number of kids entering at the same time, the operator has a chance to press a button on the fare box to count the kids. But at some point, if the technology gets, or when the technology gets there, they can do the tap and go. That is an option.
Yeah, that'll be great.
No further questions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Yeah. Second.
Second. Teresa, if you'd call a roll call.
Okay. Ms. Welch,
Abstaining.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Mr. Sleesman,
Yes.
and Mayor Weiss.
Yes.
We have 3 ayes and none opposed.
Thank you so
And one
much.
abstention, I'm sorry.
Can I just add one? Doc mentioned the CMSD. This is their actual school ID, so that's why it's very good for those students to have that ID on them at all times, because they can use that on the fare or for fare, and they need it to get into the schools. So that's why it's not transferable. So I can't give mine to my kids or another kid or whatnot. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welch, I will cede back to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wise. I appreciate that. We are now going to move into our last presentation. We are going to go into a discussion around our FY 2025 tax budget, and then after that, a public hearing. But to lead us into the discussion on the tax budget, we will have Presenter Kay Satula, Director in the Office of Management and Budget. Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Chair Welsh, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Kay Satula. I'm the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. Today I will be presenting the 2025 tax budget. The tax budget is the initial step and a valuable tool in the development of the budget process. It's a forward-looking document that estimates revenues for the next fiscal year. So today I will go through our budget schedule, our assumptions, and then hold a public hearing. In May 2024, we presented the 2025 Capital Improvement Plan, which was adopted by the board. The capital budget was submitted earlier in the year to align with the NOACA, ODOT, and FTA planning schedules. We will be coming back to the board to amend the capital improvement budget later in the year so we can purchase the next set of rail cars. Today, we are presenting the 2025 tax budget and will request that the committee recommend this to the full board for adoption on July 30th. Next month in August, we will begin the operating budget development process. And in November, we will present the 2025 budget to the board, which includes the operating budget and transfers to other funds. We will also hold a public hearing on the 2025 budget. In December, we will present again the 2025 budget, hold a second public hearing, and then at that time, recommend the committee present the budget to the full board for adoption on December 17th. The authority continues to manage the effects of the inflation and supply chain issues. We currently continue to monitor the economic conditions. The Federal Open Market Committee, or FOMC, has kept interest rates steady as they monitor the rate of inflation. FOMC is forecasting a slow decline in inflation in 2025. Ridership, passenger fares, and sales and use tax are projected to increase at modest rates in 2025. Currently, the authority has received an average yield of 4.48% on its cash investments. Wage increases, which are largely contractual with ATU and FOP, are projected for 2025. We are projecting conservative growth of our two largest sources of revenue, sales and use tax at 1.8% and passenger fares at 2.5%. Preventive maintenance will be kept low at $1 million, enabling the authority to use those grant funds toward underfunded projects. We are transferring $4.5 million from the reserve fund for the 27th pay for hourly employees. This occurs every 11 to 12 years. We are estimating needing a transfer of $36.5 million from the reserve fund for revenue stabilization to maintain a 1-month operating reserve adhering to the financial policy. Total revenues for 2025 tax budget are estimated at $352.2 million. Again, the largest two categories of revenues are sales and use tax at 77% and passenger fares at 8.6%. Under the reserve fund, there's a $4.5 million transfer for the 27th pay and a $36.5 million transfer for revenue stabilization. Total projected expenditures for the 2025 tax budget are $350.8 million. Total personnel costs include salaries and overtime at $173.2 million, and payroll taxes and fringes is $61.5 million. Again, there will be a 27th pay for hourly employees. The next three largest categories for operating expenditures include services, materials, and supplies at $26.2 million, purchase transportation at $15 million, and inventory at $13 million. Transfers to other funds total $41.1 million. These are for specific set-asides for insurance, the capital program, debt services, pension, and reserve funds. Total personnel costs are 67.7% of total expenditures. These include salaries and overtime at 50% and payroll taxes and fringes at 17.7%. The next largest categories are services, materials, and supplies at 7.6%, purchase transportation at 4.3%, and inventory at 3.8%. For the fiscal year 2025 tax budget, total revenues are estimated at $352.2 million. Total expenditures are estimated at $350.8 million. The estimated ending balance is $26.2 million, maintaining the 1-month reserve. For 26 and 27, we are planning on transfers from revenue stabilization of $31.5 million and $32.5 million respectively to maintain that 1-month reserve. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation. Any questions on the tax budget?
Yes.
Trustee Sleesman.
So 36.5 from revenue stabilization 2025, then 31.5, then 32.5. Can you remind me how much longer the funds in the revenue stabilization account have before they're up?
Kay, did you want me to address that?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sleesman, and for those online, this is Raj Gautam. In the Budget Stabilization Fund, we had transferred over a 2-year period about $135 million, which is, with the investment earnings, et cetera, it is a little over $142 million as we speak. So before we talk about running out of that Budget Stabilization Fund, I do want to point out that rare, optimistic, happy note from me, which says that this is the first time in the history of RTA that we've even had a rainy day or a budget stabilization fund. So certainly want to enjoy that and point that out. For the past several years, we have projected sub-transfers, obviously, from the Budget Stabilization Fund to General Fund. Up until this point, we haven't had to move even $1. So that's a positive. So just because we are projecting doesn't necessarily mean that we will have to. It is obviously dependent on the sales tax revenue, the passenger fare revenue exceeding expectations and the budgeted amounts, as well as our constant monitoring of the expenses that we do routinely and beating the budget. Based on those projections, your math is absolutely right, the 36.5 versus the $30 million that we had projected for 2024, and we have not yet transferred anything. We will make that evaluation towards the end of the year as to how. So if you're thinking off the cuff kind of a thing, when do we expect to have that run out? If nothing else changes and stuff like that, you're looking at anywhere from 2028 to 2030. Our role, my team's role, obviously is not to have that happen.
Yeah, to clarify, I think the way we've handled that in the last few years has been fantastic, actually. And the fact that we haven't actually had to use that despite projections is great financial management. And I'm going to be looking at that situation just to be ready in case that some of these things actually change and we have to start trying that down. So thank you for the explanation.
My pleasure.
I did have one other line of questioning for the growth in cost per hour of service, which is at $169.83, which is a 5.5% above the FY 2024 estimate. I was just curious as to the drivers to that metric, and if we have kind of a estimated explanation of why we're above that.
So a part of that is the 27th pay, which is about $4.5 to $5 million. Purchase transportation has increased over the last few years, as well as the salaries, parts, and materials for contractors and services, materials, supplies with our vendors.
One thing, if I could just add for a moment, this might be good fodder for conversation at the upcoming September-ish kind of deep dive into some of our strategic goals and things like that. So if I can ask operations and budget to kind of get together through UK to be able to provide a little bit more of an in-depth education on the parts that you just mentioned that go into that that cost per hour, because that is a very complicated, multi-layered part of our business that really fluctuates based on a lot of the market demands and based on what our ridership also demands. So it would be great for us to maybe have an analysis of that, maybe say over the past 3 years, Kay, and if you can eke out some information on maybe a year or two pre-COVID, because that also is going to change dramatically based on what our usage is and what our demand of the customer is, and then what the market also entails for, like you mentioned, purchase transportation. You know, I'm like lasering a hole into Nick's head when I say that, right? For the paratransit side, is very different now than it was, say, 5 years ago. So if we could provide that for you, that might be also helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. And a conversation around that number, and then I also know that there's other efficacy and effectiveness, or efficiency and effectiveness metrics that I'd love to talk more about, and be prepared for a couple questions on the health line especially.
Yeah. If there are additional, through the chair acting for today, if I could ask that the board submit those questions to me,
Sure.
and then we can start to prepare ourselves for future conversations this fall, so that we come with the information instead of having to come back to you.
Great, yep, thanks.
Thank you, Director Satula, for the overview. Maybe one question, and then maybe just a broader question to leadership. But I think I'd raised this before. You know, the board policy around the operating efficiency ratio of 25%. You know, here we are, 10.9%. Does that potentially warrant the question of, you know, why do we maintain 25% when kind of year after year? That is probably below the policy objective. Maybe a question for Dr. Kaber, but I think it's just a broader question around the policy objective here.
So it is a best practice, and that's what we are trying to achieve, is the best practice with transit authorities across the country.
So that's in line with other transit agencies.
Correct.
And then I think maybe to build on that question, is there an opportunity perhaps for, you know, future tax budget estimate, or I should say, future budget process, to kind of step back to understand sort of board policy relative to targets, relative to percentages in the budget process? Is there an opportunity to we take that up in the September discussion?
Yeah, we can.
Can I follow that track too? And I just, not to question us or even that answer, but I guess another level of the best practice determination, like industry at large, who determines that? Because I know some of the bigger ones are more like 50%, 60%, and some of the smaller ones, like Kansas City, I mean, is at zero. So, so how that is thought of.
So good morning, Chair Welsh, Ms. Terry, members of the board, to Trustee Love and Trustee Sleesman. So Trustee Love, I think your question is a good question. The board policy goes, I have some institutional knowledge. I used to work with Kay in the budget office a long time ago now. But those were probably last updated at least 10 years ago, the goals that were there. And so it probably would be a good objective of the board to take a look at those and others for the board policy goals. They do provide for the budget development process a guiding post with how we will develop the budget. And so Kay's staff and Raj's team work to ensure that we have those insights as we're developing the budget. One of the examples, I don't want to mess it up yet, but one of the examples is our 1 month reserve, right? You know, that's a board policy goal. It could be 3 months, it could be half of a month. And so every budget that Kay has will always have a goal to ensure that the ending balance is a 1 month reserve. You know, some would say, why do you need it? And so this organization did live through government shutdowns that money didn't come, and if you didn't have money to float during some of those times, you would have been there. But those policy goals probably do need to be refreshed. Would be a good assignment for the board to think about if those are the ones that you like, or if there would be others that you might consider. But the process for our budget development is that Kay takes a look at all of those in order to try to figure out where we can trim, as well as where we need to focus on. So good question, probably time for the board, because we haven't done so in about 10 or 15 years. And I'm looking at some of the folks who've been here a while. It's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
Or longer. Or longer.
Any additional questions? Okay, can I ask for a motion to suspend the committee meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will now open this up for a public hearing. Can you please read the budget statement, Kay? Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Welsh, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Kay Satula. I'm the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. This is the official public hearing on the proposed 2025 tax budget for the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. The information for the tax budget has been made available for public inspection on the authority's website, Twitter page, and Facebook page. Public notice of this hearing has been given by publication of legal advertisement in the Cleveland Plain Dealer on June 19th, 2024, and June 23rd, 2024, and the Cleveland Urban News on June 21st and June 23rd, as well as by posting of notice on the first floor lobby of the authority's main office building, at the Customer Service Center in the Tower City Rotunda, FTA Facebook page, or RTA Facebook page, Twitter page, and on the internet website. Notification was given on these sites of how to virtually attend live streaming the committee meeting, public hearing, and board meeting, and how to submit a comment for the public hearing. The 2025 tax budget was presented to the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee of the RTA Board of Trustees on July 9th, 2024. This is the initial analysis and forward-looking document toward estimating revenues for the next fiscal year. This is the first step and a valuable tool in the budget development process. The tax budget estimates revenues at $352.2 million. Sales and use tax receipts are projected to increase by 1.8%. Total passenger fares budgeted at $30.2 million, an increase of 2.5% as growth in ridership continues. Transfers from the reserve fund include $4.5 million for the 27th pay for hourly employees and $36.5 million for revenue stabilization to maintain a 1-month ending balance. Reimbursed expenditures include operating reimbursements for preventive maintenance, force account labor, and other miscellaneous reimbursements. For the 2025 tax budget, reimbursed expenditures are projected at $5 million, $1 million for preventive maintenance, and $4 million for the capital labor and other reimbursements. The authority continues to keep preventive maintenance reimbursement low, so grant funding could be used for other capital projects. Total expenditures for the 2025 tax budget are projected at $350.8 million, which includes $309.7 million for operating expenditures and $41.1 million for transfers to other funds. The strategic efforts we have been put in place over the last few years have enabled us to maintain a 1-month ending balance through 2027. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are now going to take public comments that are specifically related to the tax budget. Do we have anybody in person who would like to make a comment? Okay. Anyone over the phone, Teresa?
We have no callers currently.
Okay, thank you. Anyone by email?
And no emails.
No emails. Okay, no public comment today on the tax budget. And so we're going to adjourn the public hearing. Do I have a motion to reconvene the committee meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will now reconvene the committee meeting. And I'm going to make a recommendation. Oh, I'm going to pass it back to Kay to make the recommendation. Thank you. You have the floor.
Staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend the fiscal year 2025 tax budget for the full board for approval.
Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to move this to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We will now move the 2025 tax budget to the full board. Thank you so much. Before we go into the Audit, Safety, and Compliance and Real Estate Committee meeting, which is going to go into executive session, I just want to, on behalf of the board and all of us, say happy birthday to Teresa, who is an asset not only to the board, but to GCRTA. Her service is commendable, and we're so thankful for all you do. There will be cupcakes afterwards for those of you who want to stick around. But we are going to take the roll first for the Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee meeting.
To the chair.
Yes.
We just need to adjourn.
Oh, yes. Can we adjourn the Operation and Infrastructure Committee meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this meeting has been adjourned. Now we will move into the Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee meeting. Teresa, roll call.
All right. Mayor Kumar isn't here. Ms. Welch?
Here.
Ms.
Here.
Mersman? Ms. Pachetti?
Here.
Mr. Sleesman?
Here.
And Mayor Weiss?
Here.
You have 4 committee members present. You have a quorum.
Because the executive session is the last item on the agenda, if there are those of you who like to leave, you can. We are probably going to host it in here. We're going to go to the back room. Okay, so we're going to go to the back room, but this is the last item on the agenda, so unless you really like a cupcake, you are free to leave. Do I have a motion to go into executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or the sale of property at a competitive bidding?
So moved. Mayor Weiss.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I believe we Need to call the roll.
Okay.
For executive session? Okay.
For sure.
If
Roll
that's
call.
okay. Ms. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Pachetti?
Yes.
Mr. Sleesman?
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
Okay, you have 4 ayes and none opposed.
Ms. Terry?
All right, thank you. We will go ahead and invite the board members back into the caucus room. And then if I can have the following RTA staff members go back into the room as well. Mike Fessler from Legal, Janet Burney from Legal, Flonte Caber from Operations, Jim Rusnoff from Real Estate, Rajan Gotham from Finance, Mike Shipper from Engineering, Tony Garofoli for Audit, and then myself. Thank you.
In the back, it looks like they're getting ready to come out. They're coming out. Yeah, yeah. It's 10:49.
Executive session, motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Awesome. And now do I have a motion?
To the chair, I do have to do a roll call.
Oh, roll call, please. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Ms. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Pachetti?
Yes.
Mr. Sleesman?
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
Okay. You have 4 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. We will now adjourn that session. Do I have a motion to come out of Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee meeting?
So moved. Mayor Rice.
Second, Pachetti.
Also, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now adjourn the Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee meeting. I think that's the last thing. Yeah.
We're all good. Thank you, everyone, for my birthday card and the cupcakes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, take a cupcake, get some punch. We already started.
Truly the Teresa Moran show.